I saw the athletes breaking down over a dozen years ago from wearable technology. And so that's what really got me into looking into nature and how we're one with nature and how our energy systems work.
My listeners, most of them are of the Christian faith. And so when they hear crystals and frequencies and all this stuff, it just sounds so woo-woo. Before the conversation here that we're having, we talked about faith and you said you're a Christian. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm so excited because we need to share about what are these crystals really like and what are they doing as far as protecting us from EMF and not to see it so much as woo-woo and to really get the science behind it.
When you pollute our environment with electromagnetic radiation in the millimeter spectrum, a lot of people will get sick.
You're listening to the Visibly Fit Podcast. Hey, I'm your host, Wendie Pett. And every week, I'll give you holistic, practical solutions for everyday issues related to nutrition, healing, functional fitness, and behavior modifications. As a naturopath, fitness expert, and wellness coach for over 20 years, my goal is to empower you to reach for greater health and to rise up to your next level of living in mind, body, and spirit. You were created with greatness in mind. It's time to own it. Are you with me? Then let's dive in.
Hey there, and welcome to the Visibly Fit Podcast. I'm your host, Wendie Pett. It's a delight to be here with you today. Thanks so much for tuning in. I always like to picture where you might be as you're listening. Maybe you're on vacation, I don't know, laying out, getting some vitamin D, laying by the beach, or maybe you're driving to work. Maybe you are doing chores around the house. I don't know, but I'm just excited that you're here. So thank you. I appreciate you tuning in. And we have talked on the subject that we're going to be talking about today a few times. This time it's a little more edgy, if you will. But I want you to really sink your teeth into this. I want you to really listen because my guest really knows his stuff. And he is really going to be talking about your athleticism and basically your performance in tangent with the environment. Like, is your environment affecting your athletic ability? Now, it could be other things. It could be you don't have your food in check, you're not sleeping well, you're stressed to the max. I mean, there could be some other aspects, right? Like, I know this, and so does he. But he has been, I keep saying he, like it's a big secret who my guest is. Maybe I'll just tell you. Okay, he is Justin Frandson. And he is a renowned athleticism performance coach and author. He specializes in nerve work and is the founder of Athleticism.com and EMFRocks.com. He has been working in the field of athletic performance for over 25 years. And Justin is the author of Athleticism, Whole Body plus Whole Brain plus Performance, which delves into the connection between athletic performance and the environment. Frandson became interested in the impact of environmental factors on athletic performance after noticing that many of his athletes were breaking down due to the effects of the wearable technology. In response to this, he looked to nature for solutions to the man-made EMF challenge that we're all dealing with. And he has something called grounding bags, which is sold in numerous doctors' clinics across the country. And they are a leading natural answer to help people coexist with EMF, electromagnetic fields. Can we coexist? He says yes. So this is good news. I mean, I wish we could just get rid of 5G and all this, the seriousness of EMF. But, we can do what we can within our own home. But then you walk outside your home and, wow, you're just bombarded with 5G towers everywhere. And it's only getting worse. So I'm excited to have Justin on the show. Enjoy. Well, welcome, Justin, to the Visibly Fit Podcast. I'm so excited to have you on today.
Thank you, Wendie, for having me.
Yeah, this is fantastic. We are going to be talking about several different topics, but we're going to be talking about something that's near and dear to your heart, and that's you've got the word on your shirt there, athleticism, and that is a book that you wrote not too long ago, Whole Body plus Whole Brain plus Performance. And it's take your energy, speed, and coordination to a new dimension. I love that. Well, let's first talk about your background, Justin, and your motivation. Like, what initially drew you to the field of athletic performance? You've been doing this for like 25 plus years, right?
Yeah.
And then how did your experiences shape your approach to coaching?
Well, thank you. I started athleticism.com, goodness, almost 30 years ago, like you said, working with amateur and professional athletes. And I do nerve and coordination and fascia work, all for sports performance. And so I saw the athletes breaking down over a dozen years ago from wearable technology. And so that's what really got me into looking into nature and how we're one with nature and how our energy systems work, because we're electromagnetic beings, and then how different this non-native electromagnetic fields were for our body. And so that's what brought me to EMFRocks.com, and then looking where we hand mine crystals, and that's the answer for protecting us from EMF. And yeah, go ahead.
I want to put a little pin in that for just a moment, because my listeners are, most of them are of the Christian faith. And so when they hear crystals and frequencies and all this stuff, it just sounds so woo-woo, right? Like, I know before the conversation here that we're having, we talked about faith, and you said you're a Christian. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm so excited, because we need to share about, okay, what are these crystals really like, and what are they doing as far as protecting us from EMF, and not to see it so much as woo-woo, and to really get the science behind it. My husband and I, we have a grounding mat. We go out and ground almost every morning. We are in Minnesota, so sometimes we have to shovel the snow before we can ground. But let's talk a little bit about, why maybe in the church people are a little kind of freaked out about that kind of thing. But before we even go there, I just want to remind my audience that, God spoke this world into existence, and his voice has a vibration. It's a vibrational frequency, and his voice is life and death is in the power of the tongue. And so I think of that vibrational frequency and what we're surrounded with all the time, those frequencies. So anyway, just let's talk about it.
Yeah. And this is an interesting topic, because we are made from the subtle energies of the universe, and we're one with those. And that's just the framework of how God made us all and created us. And there are waves. Everything in the universe is waves and particles. And so I'm studying to be a naturopathic doctor as well, finishing up my credentials, just, like you are a naturopath. And the subtle energies are a huge part. It's one of our whole sections of our course. Mm-hmm. And understanding, how we're really rev with nature. And so I want to redirect the question back to everyone who's Christian that's gone to a doctor and they've gotten any diagnostic test. What was the framework of that test that they gave you for X-ray, for MRI, for a CT scan? The framework for all those are waveforms. So
that's right.
The speed of those waveforms are just faster, and they're a different direction. They're one directional. So we're not made on one directional waveforms. The framework of what we're made and one with the universe are called scalar waves. They distribute equally in every direction. And a few examples of this would be, number one, during the nonsense of everyone saying stay far away from people, they didn't say stay 68 feet away from Justin's right ear in a straight line out of my right ear. No, there's a resonance that goes out equally in every direction. That's called our biofield, our energetic field. You can see it through Kirlian photography. You can actually see the colors of our auras, of our chakras that are in the same spectrum as a rainbow. So we're essentially a holograph of light. We vibrate through, these. We're basically everything has a vibration communication through waveforms that are unpolarized through unpolarized electromagnetic radiation, and water is our conductivity. And our body revs through pressured systems, and that's how we can heal the body through fascia. And unwinding fascia is through the pressure of the body. And our heart's not a pump, it's electric. And so those are certain just aspects of how we are now.
That's why when you go to the ER, if your heart has stopped, they shock it.
They shock it. Yeah. And then, and same. And if you have a clogged heart, so they say, which Dr. Tom Cowan would say that's a bunch of baloney. He would say they give you the statins that they give you after, or high cholesterol, what have you. They're to upregulate your heart, and so there's things like strophanthus that are natural roots that will upregulate the nerve conductivity for it.
That's right.
So, from the universe side, what is our environment? So I want to ask everyone, what is our environment? Well, it's everything around us, but let's lean in on this air, the air part of it. Well, we don't really think of our air as our environment because you're not supposed to see air, and you don't really think of it as, your environment, unless you're in LA and you could see it and smell it and see the smog and smell the pollution and all. But the air is basically waves and particles traveling through it. It's ether plasma. And so that's how we're able to communicate, Wendie, is through this waveforms that, that are traveling, across the country. And that's, and so that's the framework of
light, sound. Mm-hmm.
It's the framework of our entire universe is through waveforms. Now, these waves are unpolarized from the universe side, the cosmic side. Any atmospheric pressure shifts, any solar flares, any cosmic shifts in the universe, our bodies adapt to those. And just as the same as if someone were to, put us in a microwave, oven, we wouldn't do so well. We'd probably die right away because they're, ionized radiation that would dehydrate us, and it would cook us to death, just kind of like it does with our food. It heats up it oscillates
from the inside out
molecules from the inside out, dehydrates it, and creates a thermal effect. So we're basically one with our universe. So a great example, or a couple examples of the universe having a resonance and being, omnidirectional is, if I were to drop a pebble into a pond and I'm perpendicular, it's like right above the pond, would the splash of the pond go in a straight line to the right? No, it wouldn't.
No.
It would distribute equally in every
all
direction.
Around.
And same as the sun's resonance goes out in every direction. It's not a laser coming down us. Same as if I'm earthing and grounding out into nature, I'm not in it, excuse me, and getting grounded in one spot, pardon me, and then out of the grounding, there's Schumann resonance in the other spot. So that's kind of how our universe works. So I think the woo-woo of the magic and back in the days was so different that people kind of shun this. And when we talked about crystals and resonance, crystals have frequencies. Like every living organism has a resonance, and some are known to be great for different properties. And shungite, amethyst, black tourmaline, those all have magnetic resonances. And so that's where we can calculate and actually measure them. It just is if we have a meter to meter electromagnetic radiation, the non-native waveform, we can measure the speed of the cell phone. Like this is quiet right now. It's not making any noise. But if I were to point a meter at it and I had my antennas on, this meter would start screaming, and it would meter out because the signal strength on the phone is too strong for my meter to read. So we just have to understand how we interplay with our environment, what it really is.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, I know that our infrared sauna, we've got jade stone in there because it's a good conductor of heat. And so there's reasons why stone and crystal are good in the sense of healing. you know, because like you said, they can definitely stop certain particles from waves from entering and disrupting our healthy cells. And so once I think we start to open our minds to that and understand that, no, this doesn't mean that I'm not a Christian. If I am using what God gave us as a resource for healing modalities, it's just being educated and using what God gave us to our best ability.
For sure.
And that's wisdom.
Yeah. And that's what you do when you go to church. You're raising your frequency, your vibration, your energy field, and you're connecting to source. Yeah. So you're connecting to God. And that's the goal of what we all are here for, is to raise our consciousness and to stay so connected above and so grounded to the earth, to where we're using all the elements of what God's provided us to feed us, to help us stay healthy. And we have to be out into nature to do that. And there's been a disconnect from that. And therefore, we're seeing a disconnect in the health space, because our body gets fed from the negative ionic charge of the earth, and we get the electrons to support the electron transport chain. We get energy from the sun, the unpolarized light of the sun. As Dr. Zach Bush will say, we breathe in it from the air, and we get minerals from the air, and hopefully we get good minerals from the water as well, and the conductivity of it all when we're getting clean food, and then water, and then the water gives us the conductivity. So we have all those 5 elements. If we're missing any of those, our bodies just aren't getting the frequencies and the nutrition from the resonance of what God's provided for us to help us heal and optimize.
Right. And that's when dis-ease starts to set in to the body. So, I mean, I'm glad I have you on, because, again, I think a lot of my listeners are going, whoa, I can't, why does Wendie have this person on, and what is going on? This is like so out there for me. But I want you, listener, to please just pay attention and again, have an open mind and understanding that God has given us so many resources that we can use as modalities to help to heal our bodies, just like going out and finding an herb to heal our body, right? It's the same kind of concept. But I want to talk, before we started our interview here, we were talking about wearables and how I used to wear a wearable, but I felt like I was really obsessed with the numbers. And then I felt like it was kryptonite. Like I just felt tired all the time. So I got rid of them. I mean, I had the Aura Ring and the Whoop Band, and I had all the things, right? Because I wanted to measure my performance, because this is what people tell you in the athletic world. You've got to measure, you got to know. And I don't know. I think my mind and I just know internally if I'm getting better or not. I mean, I can write some numbers down on a piece of paper as far as, I'm doing more push-ups or whatever, but I don't think I need to be so consumed. What do you think about that?
Well, I'm so glad your intuition told you to stop using wearable technology so much, because when we're connected with God and our bodies, we already know these things. We don't need the meta universe, which is completely evil, to tell us how we feel, how we slept, how many steps to take, when it's time to eat. That we got to get away from that. And yes, I've worked with professional athletes for almost 3 decades, and I don't track a professional athlete every day. We don't test them every day. How is that even possible? You don't do that. When we do test, we'll establish a base point and a midline and then an end point. It's not an everyday test, but the tech companies are selling this as a way to sell more products. But essentially all they're doing is they're aggregating your information, and they're doing surveillance marketing, and they're using it to sell you more products, and
it's affecting our nervous system.
It's affecting your system because it's a radiation. The wearables are radiation locally on you. And that's the point I was making earlier when I was saying I found out about it. We had a pro. He said, Justin, I had pain in my wrist. I said, well, where? And he pointed right to where a smartwatch was. And Wendie, this was about the time where the Fitbits were being recalled. And so I said, well, hey, that's radiation on your wrist. They've ratcheted these things up. I said, take the radiation off your wrist, and his pain went away and his arm function restored. And so
it's almost like, duh,
well, that's the easiest way to fix somebody is to take the stressor out of their life.
Right. But we're all just so in our own space with blinders on that we're not seeing the obvious solution to the problem so often.
Right. And we don't think of it as a challenge because we don't see it or hear it. And when you're underwater, Wendie, and I was sharing it with you, I'm a big waterman, and I can hear dolphins when they're in our cove, or whales. The sound travels about 5 times easier underneath water for us to hear. On land, most humans don't have the capacity to hear it. The vibration our bodies feel, but the noise, like I was saying, the meters make when you're pointing out a device, that's the sound our nervous system hears. Plants hear it, animals hear it, because it's a vibration that affects us, but just we don't have the capacity to hear at that bandwidth. But it doesn't mean it's not affecting us in a negative way. And it is a slow cook, like long-term kind of challenge. But I would, well, real quick, I would love to share with you guys the book, The Invisible Rainbow. And have you heard about that one?
I have not.
So it's by Arthur Furstenberg, and he categorizes the history of electricity and life. And he correlates every major shift in our electromagnetic blanket of an atmosphere to their cosmic ones or their non-native ones. And before we put electricity in the homes, they were all cosmic shifts where a lot of people would get sick at one time, where we call it a pandemic. And they're directly correlated with solar flares or cosmic shifts before 1889, when we put electricity in the homes. After that, well, they called the flu back then the flu or influenza, because it was under the influence of the stars and the cosmic shifts. And so now in 1918, we rolled out radio waves for the first time. That correlates with the Spanish flu, and then World War II radar and Hong Kong flu satellites in the Van Allen belt. And then now the last several years is 5G rollout. And so we can make a phone call instantly across the world. To me, it's not so far-fetched to understand that when you pollute our environment with electromagnetic radiation in the millimeter spectrum, a lot of people will get sick.
Yeah. So it's just this dirty air, dirty energy. And so what do we do about it? I mean, everyone's got it. You walk in any building, you walk in anywhere, there's electricity flowing left and right. 5G's on every corner. So what does the average person do? What's some practical advice?
Well, first off, you have to identify what the stressors are. And they are literally your laptop, which the most evil marketing scheme is to call it a laptop. You're putting a battery
on your lap,
right, with a router over your reproductive organs. So where the population replenishment is being really hindered right now, and a lot of it's from electromagnetic radiation. So
it's demonic.
It really is. That is one of the most evil ones. And then the earbuds, the wireless ones, that's an airway canal directly to your brain. So wear the corded headsets if you're wearing them. And then never put your phone next to your head. Always have it on speaker. Now, remember the top part of the phone, it's like the barrel of a gun. It's shooting upward. That's where those one directional waveforms are broadcasting out of. So if you're talking on your phone, have it away from your head and have it pointed away from your body. So it's not pointing at you. Just as those cell towers, you know how they have panels, they're facing every direction. The reason is again, because they're one directional waveforms. They can't broadcast just out in this direction. It covers everywhere. They have to have it pointed every direction. So then electric cars is another big topic. You got to avoid ever sitting in electric cars. They're I could go and write a dissertation on it, but sitting on a massive battery is not good for you in any way, shape, or form. It actually equates to 18% lower testosterone. So, and then when we get into the home, I've gone so far as to turn the electrical, we have a timer on our electrical panel. So in our bedrooms, all the electricity goes off at night when we sleep, which is,
oh, wow.
Which has been,
we have a timer on our Wi-Fi.
And that's another one. So definitely do that when you're sleeping where it turns off. And then, or you can have a clicker on it where if you're not using it throughout the day, if your kids are out of the house and you're not working full time out of your house, you can turn it off when you're not using it, on when you're using it. But even better, just get fiber optic. It's faster, it's safer, it's hardwire your home. My computer is hardwired here. So unless I'm on my cell phone, I don't have millimeter waves in my immediate environment. So go back to hardwiring. It is so much better. So those are really the simple things. The last one would be take a look at the documentary movie called Take Back Your Power by Josh Del Sol. And it talks about the smart meters. We can opt out of a smart meter. It's an automated gas and electric meter. The gas and electric companies have automated their system so they don't have to pay for guys to walk and meter your meters. And they save millions of dollars doing it. But it's radiation. It acts like a cell phone antenna on your home. So if you can call them for privacy reasons and opt out of it, because those things, they can tell what your usage is every second of the day. And it's a sporadic pulse. Every 7 to 15 seconds, it pings into your house and then back to their substation so they can see what your usage is. So opt out of those, say for privacy, and say you want to go back to an analog meter.
Okay. No, that's good. That's good advice. And, you know, it's so much marketing, right? It's all about the money, all of it. And, you know, all the smart appliances, that's another one, right? And they're becoming more and more popular. And I mean, and going back to the smart, the electric cars, oh my word, they're everywhere. And people are being duped into thinking that this is the way that we should evolve into our next form of vehicles. And I disagree 100%.
Those are probably one of the most evil. Like we're just sitting on a massive battery that's electrocuting people. The whole environmental aspect of it is a big lie as well. They're mining coal, cadmium, and minerals. They're using diesel and fossil fuels to do it, which I don't feel diesel's bad. Clean diesel isn't bad. It's not bad for us. It's not carcinogenic like everyone said. But it's the whole entire supply chains from China and pretty much owned by China and through China. I'm not a fan of that in any way, shape, or form. When you plug your car in to charge it, especially if you're sitting in it, goes into it. When you're accelerating, decelerating, reversing, idling, there's high levels, that shift of dirty electricity. You have all three of the highest levels. You have milligauss, which is electricity, which is the whole front dashboard, which is in all cars. And then you have the wireless, which is in all cars. But the big variable is you're sitting on a massive battery. That is devastating, and that brings in dirty electricity. And it also brings us to the next topic, which is solar. Solar on the home acts as the same, which is dirty electricity. And you're saying you're off the grid. You're not off the grid. They can shut down those cars anytime they want. You have to plug into the grid for solar for any overage. So you're not off the grid. You're not helping the environment. And then our landfills are filling up with acid with dead batteries.
That's so good. And you know what? That's just been kind of the deception of what, you know, the marketing ploy has been going around, and people going door to door saying, oh, you're going to save money and you got to do this. And it's better for the environment, all the things. And I think people, you know, genuinely want to do better and be better. But the propaganda and the marketing, the lies, the deceit is what is, it's just so corrupt. And so there's this mixed bag of tricks out there, and people are just confused and they're frustrated, and they've spent a lot of money, and they want to be healthy, and they want to live in a healthy world just like you and I do. But they're confused. quite frankly. And so I think that's the biggest thing is, if you're listening, do your research on this and go and listen to Justin on some other issues and other podcasts he's been on, because he's very well versed here. But you also have some products that you have created to help people, just diffuse the EMFs a little bit. And again, it's a little bit different from the average person of what they've heard works, or it may seem kind of out there and woo-woo, but it's not. So let's talk a little bit about your grounding bags. Let's talk about EMF Rocks a little bit.
Thank you. Yeah. So I have a question for you. When you're with your husband, you feel a coherence, right? You feel this connection where you guys are just really compatible.
Oxytocin is good.
Yeah, they're really compatible.
Yes.
So that's a frequency that you're connecting to. That's a coherence. If you have really bright lights and you're at imagine having a football stadium light up your home. Would that be, you would be in coherence with your environment?
No.
Not at all. And so, so the reason I use those examples is because there's this thing called coherence that's really important for us to have. And we're in it when we're in nature, and nature is natural resonances. When you pollute our environment, just as if you would pollute the ocean, if there's a big oil spill, the marine life's going to get sick. Well, if you're polluting our environment through the air, through electromagnetic radiation, we're going to struggle to stay healthy. And what it does is it hits your biofield, which goes out about 6 to 8 feet. And then we can't physiologically have chemistry without that energy of our energy field. It's just impossible. So what happens is our chemistry of our body gets affected. So what I did is I said, hey, nobody has better answers than God. I looked to nature and God for everything. And so that's the framework of our entire brand is we took nature's resonance that she provided for us, and we hand mine crystals. And the reason our crystals are so amazing for EMF protection is they have moisture content. Well, we have over 70% moisture in our body and water in our body.
Right.
Well, so do our crystals. And that's the difference than the other crystals I mentioned earlier. They don't have moisture. They just have magnetic. So the moisture with the magnetic is what our crystals have. And no one knew about them because when they had mined them, they would turn to dust. We're the first to seal them. We double seal them. We put them in a grounding bag. You put that grounding bag in your home and you create a coherence. You create basically a balance between us and non-native waveforms. So what it does, there's a thing called a piezoelectric effect where one energy will overpower, meet, or convert another energy. And these are the subtle energies that we don't see, but that's what's going on. That's the subtle energy you don't see when you're with your husband and you're in that compatible state that you feel. So that's kind of where we're alluding to. So 5 grounding bags in your home, clear 2,000 square feet, 1 on your bed, you'll sleep up to 60% deeper. And we've done the sleep test. Just one grounding, one grounding bag on your body. Well, actually, we had 2 on this test. We had a body and then 1 at the base of the chair. Your blood sticks and stacks and slows because the radiation, that's what it does to you. And that's what we've seen all these studies on it that show that.
Sticky blood is not good.
It's not good. It's called Rouleau's. And so it'll slow your whole system down. So the grounding bags help a 52%, which is amazing, which circulation. That's massive.
Yeah.
So there's so many studies that we have done on how does the body respond with our crystals and when you're in a toxic environment of radiation. And the results are unbelievable. Dr. Berlando did one where the grounding bags clinically passively treated up to 91% of all the other markers that were off. So we've seen everything from 52 for circulation to 91 with other medical conditions to up to 60% for sleep. I mean, it's just phenomenal how our bodies do so well with nature's resonance.
100%. And those of you that are listening, don't get tripped up on the word crystal. Again, because that's the woo-woo thing. I mean, it is crystal, right? But think of it as rocks. Think of it as natural resource. I mean, we have a Himalayan salt lamp that we have in a couple of rooms. Like I can, those are nice to have. We have it in our infrared sauna has it as well. There's just such power with these rocks, these crystals. So anyway, it's not woo-woo. It's just something that God has provided that makes a big difference. So I'm glad that you're here kind of talking about it, unpacking it, and making it more understandable
thank
for
you.
people listening.
Can I share one quick story?
Yeah. Yes, please.
So one of my close friends, very Christian family and wealthy family in Newport Beach, California, their child got childhood diabetes. And they had built this new home, and there's a transformer in their backyard that powered about a dozen other homes in the neighborhood. And what they didn't realize is that this neighborhood, it's called the Port Streets. Some of the streets are like cross-wired from the gas and electric company. And so it's kind of like an Aaron Brockovich situation where there's some really unhealthy streets where a lot of people are sick on those streets. Well, the mom was former professional athlete. Dad is a credible athlete, super healthy, super organic. And their youngest got diabetes. And so they called me and said, Justin, I hear you're looking into this radiation thing. Can you come test our home? Because I had been testing homes for quite some time. Well, I went to their home and it was off the charts high on all the levels. Milligauss was like 7+ inside their home. It should be 1 or below. The dirty electricity was over 1,100 on up into 1,400 constantly, and it went up when people turned on stuff.
Wow.
And what we found is that it was cross-wired, so they had to rewiring to their transformer, and then they had to change out their lights in their home, which had transformers in their new LED lights. That was causing lots of dirty electricity. They shut their Wi-Fi off, kind of like they did all the steps that we shared already and cleaned up their house. But one of the other parts was their son. When they were cleaning up the house, they just took off and flew to Fiji from Orange County. And their son got grounded out at the beach, which is great. And they were wearing these smartwatches on the airplane. And so the mom, this mom, her 10-year-old, or I forget, the 10 to 12-year-old son, just got diabetes. So it's ironic that they're using this technology to save his life, but that's what caused the challenge in the first place. And so anyhow, she's wearing it. He's wearing the smartwatch. The child's sitting right next to her on the airplane. And literally everyone turns on their Wi-Fi. His glucose spikes 200 points and he gets a bloody nose. And then 3/4 the way through the flight, most of the people, half the people woke up. Well, the kid's still sleeping. And so half the people turned on their Wi-Fi and his glucose goes up 100 points and he gets a bloody nose while he's sleeping. And the mom's watching, it's going, he's not consuming anything inside his internal environment. It's got to be something in the external environment. So she starts looking around to see the usage of us. And everything I shared with her, we realized that this radiation, when you're in an encapsule like an airplane, it's going to mess with the chemistry of our body. And they didn't understand that the answers lied in nature. And then we've normalized their house, fixed the stressors, brought the grounding bags in, and the kids had one of the biggest corrections that the doctor had ever seen from creating that coherence in his environment.
That's amazing. And so, we do need to pay attention to our environment. And I know we kind of are talking more about, our environment on this podcast instead of like athleticism and more. That's the direction I thought we were going to go. But you know what? God knows how we're supposed to go on the podcast. So I'm not too worried about it. But I hope that my listeners are really just paying attention to what you have to say, because there's so many different autoimmune diseases. There's so many different, obviously a lot is our food and lack of movement and that kind of thing. But our environment is playing a mighty role. My husband and I, we just got back from Pakistan. It's one of the most polluted places I've ever been to in my life. You think LA is bad? Oh, no. Pakistan, it's horrible. In fact, they just shut down all the schools because the pollution was so bad. because they have so many brick kilns and the pollution from these brick kilns. They have like 22,000 brick kilns in India. They have 123,000. Anyway, that's a whole nother story. But the pollution is so heavy that I could barely breathe. And I think about that in terms of, excuse me, in terms of just the obvious pollution. But we're not seeing that kind of pollution. We're seeing this is pollution that we can't see, but it's there.
It's
and that's why we need to wake up to
Our
this.
bodies break down in
right?
so many ways. It dehydrates us, and there's a vibration. It affects a voltage-gated calcium channel. So it's letting positive calcium into a negative cell, in turn causing cell and DNA damage. And these are oxidative stressors. Electrons are pulling off the atoms, and those are the oxidative stresses come in, and you're basically messing with your pineal gland at night. If your Wi-Fi's on and your cell phone's right next to you, you got to put devices on airplane mode and get the resonance in your home as low and as slow and as close to nature's resonance. And that's when we can start to quantify these things. That's another big thing for people to grasp. When we can measure the speed of these waveforms, Wendie. And so when we're sleeping, we have brainwave states. Are you familiar with delta, theta? Well, it's common knowledge when we're asleep, our brain waves are slower and in a slower state, and they measure it at 1 or below 1 to 8 hertz or waves per second when we're sleeping. Our athletes for athleticism, when they're in the flow state, they're about 8 to 13 hertz or waves per second. That's an alpha brainwave state. The more awake, the faster the speed. These cell phones are minimum speed is 2.45 gigahertz. So a gigahertz means it's billions of waves per second. So hertz is a wave per second. So there's 10 zeros difference between us and how a 4G of our phone revs. That's of a one directional polarizing waveform. So guess what 5G is? 60 to 90 billion waves per second. Guess what telecom? Yeah, insane. Guess what telecom is allowed to go up to? Over 3 times the highest level of 5G, which is 300 gigahertz. So telecom's allowed to go up to 300 billion waves per second. They're only getting started with this stuff. So for you to introduce this to people is so important. And I mean, we're sleeping and revving and optimize it at 1 or below 1 to 13 hertz or waves per second. And then the Schumann resonance, the healing pulse of Earth, they measured that too. That's 7.83 hertz. So it's really close in one with us.
Right.
So if we can just measure this stuff and take the whatever else out of it, just measure it, it gives us definitive numbers.
Yeah. No, this is so good. I think the biggest thing people are going to want to know is, what do I do? I mean, okay, I can get your grounding bags. I can get the crystals. I can do, go outside, and do some earthing. I can do grounding mat. I can do all these things, but how do I measure it? And how do I really get my home? How do I scrub it? How do I scrub it so it is not in the state that it's in right now, so that my body and my family isn't going to suffer? And also, we can't just be trapped inside of our home knowing that this is the only safe place, because when we go outside, there's 5G everywhere. You walk into a building, get onto an airplane. So what do we do?
Right.
When we can't really control the situation.
Build your life force up and your energy up to where we can, there's this thing called physics. You can convert a polarizing one directional waveform, into something that's beneficial. So that's the physics component. So we can do it through prayer and breath work and intention and meditation. All these things are huge for that. When you're in a compromised state, it's really tough to have the strength to do that. It's really tough to, we can coexist with it. It's really tough to heal when you're decharged and you lose your polarity, which what the stuff does to us. So you can get out into nature and recharge it. And then when you're in home, develop usage and proximity protocols, and then use the EMF Rocks Grounding Bags to have that coherence in your environment. And we have a mini for your purse, your pocket, your backpack for on-the-go protection. We have the full-size grounding bags for the home. And then the answer, the question then is, how much of nature's resonance do we need to have to bring into our environment? So then we've established protocols for that. But you guys, no one has the answers better than nature. And this is the energies. I want to be really clear on this. A lot of people are manufacturing frequencies, and they're saying, hey, I got this pendant on my cell phone. I got this, I'm embedding this frequency into a metal plate, a sticker, a pendant. Right. And I don't eat genetically modified food. Do you, Wendie? Okay, so why would we want a modified frequency in our environment to overpower the other modified frequencies? It doesn't make sense. So that's why I'm not a fan of the grounding sheets, because you're plugging it into an electrical outlet. Even though that outlet may connect to ground, electricity doesn't travel inside of wires. There's a resonance. I can measure an electrical outlet several feet away from it. So the resonance goes out. So I like nature's resonance. No one does it better than nature. So bringing that back, putting it on the bed, at the head of the bed, between the mattress and the headboard, between you and your spouse, would be absolutely so beneficial for you to have that grounding and that coherence.
Okay, that is so good. I'm going to get them.
Please
and I'm
do.
going to let you know. I'm going to give you a full report. Those of you listening, and you, Justin, I'm going to give you a full report of how that affects our sleep, because we're all about having a great night's sleep. That's so important. That's when your body heals and repairs and restores. And you know that best, being athletic and an athletic coach for over 25 years. So, well, as we wrap this up, I'm probably going to have you on again so that we can focus on your book as well. But because I really want to get to that as well, because we all are, my listeners may not all be athletes, but we're all inner athletes. Like, we all have athleticism in us, and we all have kind of this desire to be more athletic. And so I kind of want to go there on our next interview, if you're so kind to come on and do that. But on like kind of a, let's wrap this up kind of a note, what would you say to somebody listening that is kind of like, I'm hearing you, Justin, it sounds really good. What would be like, how could they maybe, I don't know, what's some other resources that they can dive into to kind of solidify what you are suggesting?
Bioinitiative.org's done thousands of studies on this stuff. Look at bioinitiative.org.
You cut out.
And then look at
bioinitiative.org.
Robert Kennedy Jr.'s Children's Health Defense Organization has endless studies where he's litigated against telecom.
So glad his
role, he's found his role in for his life journey is this one, and it's very exciting. I feel he has a huge voice for the health space, and he's litigated against all these people, so he knows the lies and deceits, and that these organizations have really hurt us and profited on it, and so it's going to be a huge change. So right, I forgot my lost my train of thought on that one.
I don't know. That's okay. We're just on the cusp, though. We're learning, we're growing, and I'm glad that you are on the front edge, the front line of educating and sharing. So thank you for that. And I just want to drive people to your website. And what's the best one? I know you've got EMFrocks.com.
Right.
And what's the other website
and
people can go to?
Athleticism.com is where we have all of our curated health products. And that's spelled athletic, ISM, for those who have trouble spelling it. And then you can find us on Instagram at EMF Rocks or at Athleticism Neurostacking. I'm also a brand partner for an incredible self-healing fascia maneuver system called Human Garage. And they have over 1 million followers on Instagram. But I do a lot of the breath work when I'm counter-rotating, creating a pressured system. And so I'll do my prayer, I'll do all that, and I'm combining it, and I do it outside in nature, barefoot. I have these routines that I do daily to keep my energy up and my health up, my vitality up. And so look into all these different resources to get out and to help feed your soul. But my end message is stay connected to God and stay grounded to nature.
Yes. That's so good. Thank you so much,
Yes, of
Justin. I
course.
have to have you back on. Do you promise? Okay, awesome. All right. Thank you so much for being with us. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Visibly Fit podcast. I know it was a little edgy, it was a little different, but I really hope that you gleaned from this conversation with Justin. Listen, these invisible stressors, these EMFs that we're all dealing with are no joke, and they're only going to get worse. But listen, I wanted to give a little disclaimer after this episode because this interview obviously included the discussion about crystals and their uses in holistic practices. But it's important to note that the perspectives that we shared and what Justin shared, they're based on personal beliefs and experiences, and they may not align with traditional Christian teachings, right? They may not. And that's why I really felt the need to even give a disclaimer on this episode to begin with. I mean, I personally believe that we are to turn to the living God for our healing and our guidance. And I also believe that Justin would say the same. So I really just want to encourage you to use your own discernment and to consider your own beliefs and values. This conversation was really only aimed to explore just various approaches to wellness, and it's not intended to promote any kind of spiritual woo-woo practice. That's not what it's about. The crystals mentioned are a tool. They are not healers themselves. Again, Jesus is our healer, right? So I'm pretty sure if you've been listening to this podcast long enough, or you know me, you know my heart. And I didn't even want to put this disclaimer out there on this podcast, or on this episode, but I knew I needed to. No, I haven't gone off the deep end. It's quite the opposite. I want to bring you food for thought here. I want to bring you tools to make your health and your life better. And so, I've tried all kinds of things myself. I mean, Justin mentioned the little sticker that's that you can put on your cell phone or your laptop to reduce the EMFs. Well, guess what? I have one on my phone. That's right. And he said that they don't work. Well, hey, I'm trying. I'm trying to do. I'm trying to figure out what works. Right? We have a grounding mat. I don't know if it's working. I mean, some of it could just really be pseudoscience. The crystals could be pseudoscience. I don't know. I don't want to diminish what Justin was saying, but I'm going to do my own research too. And so I invite you to do the same. Okay. So it's just kind of something I wanted to share because God made gemstones and all these things. And actually it's even talked about in the Bible, right? Like we're not putting our faith in these crystals. We're not putting our faith in these gemstones. No, but these are our tools that he created that could help in this area of EMFs. So again, listen and do your own research, but I had to give that disclaimer. So, all right, thanks so much for tuning in. I do hope you enjoyed the show. And I do want to have him come back on the show again and talk more about his book, Athleticism. So if you are in a place where you are looking to get healthy and healed and you're looking for a program and you're sick and tired of being sick and tired and you've, quote unquote, tried everything and supposedly nothing works, well, maybe you just haven't found the right program. And so I want to invite you to go to Get Visibly Fit and get on board with us. Jump in on the 7-week accelerator program. And I'm telling you, your life will be changed. I'm trying to think right now. Jackie, who just completed our program not too long ago, I actually should put up her testimonial, but she released 23 pounds and almost 20 inches, I believe, in just 7 weeks. And she's feeling good, looks great, and she's still on her journey. But man, she is already just such an incredible jumpstart, and she's got lots of energy. She's sleeping well. Like, it's just awesome. So I want that for you too. So go to getvisiblyfit.com and let's work together. If you have questions, feel free to email me, but I'd love to be your, hold your hand and walk you through this journey and give you the right tools and give you the right knowledge so that you can have a lifestyle that will treat you well and help you to have longevity and vitality. That's my goal for you. All right, blessings, and thanks again for tuning into this episode, and we will catch you next time right here on Visibly Fit. Be blessed.
Well, that's a wrap for today's show. So thank you so much for tuning in. I love spending this time with you. To learn more and get more free resources, just head on over to wendiepett.com. And thank you in advance for sharing this episode and this podcast, following and subscribing not only to this podcast, but finding me on social media, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you are, I'm probably there too. Until next week and our next podcast time together, make it a visibly fit day.